Hello everybody, happy Tuesday, hope you're doing very, very well. I am back from my week away. It was an activity holiday, so I'm actually more tired now than I was before I started it. But, you know, it's time off work, so that always helps. Back into some opening of some shirts. I don't have actually too many to show you, so we may have to start doing some sort of videos showcasing new releases, because they're coming quite thick and fast. It'll be quite interesting to see what we all think on those. But this week I have two shirts to show you, though there aren't new clubs to the collection, as you can probably guess by the backdrop here. If I move the mannequin out of the way for the full set, you can gather which team this one is going to be. It's always seemingly developed into a bit of a sub-collection within the main collection. And yeah, I've got a number of seasons there, and in here we have one more to add. So which one is it going to be? Is it going to be something from previous seasons, or is it going to be the most current one, or is it the one that's missing from 2022-2023? If you have the home shirt or know somebody with it, let me know, because I can't find it anywhere. Anyway, let's get it open and see which one it is, because it's always interesting to be able to at least compare. There's not many teams that I can do that with other than Chelsea, so it's something to consider. Open up, we have thingy, and then we have, finally, a trading card. We have Ronaldo, Fenomeno, Inter Milan styling. Now, I don't know if anybody follows Classic Football Shirts on their social media accounts. Apparently, they've started to release shiny cards which have a QR code on the back. Scan it, you get free goodies. It's probably not going to be anything too exciting, but it's a way to incentivize people to purchase. For someone like me who's always buying, it makes a difference, really. I think they're running it until August, September. It's towards the end of the year, though technically we're not that far away from the second half anyway. So yeah, something to bear in mind. So we'll be looking for the shiny cards. I'm sure we will make a few purchases between now and then. But this one, of course, was made actually not that long ago, to be honest. Ooh, okay then. Well, I wasn't necessarily anticipating this. So it comes in a branded bag, which is quite interesting because I kind of want to keep it, but probably not. And then on the back there, so we've got the sizing, medium. Okay then. Already got a little bit of premium feel to it. Let's get it open. And there is the shirt. So we'll just set that aside before I decide what I'm going to do with it. And it is the rear of the shirt. Okie dokie then. So it's the black kind of grey colour that we come to associate with the club. On the back of the neck we have a little bit of text, which is Forza Leone, which is something like strength of lions, power of lions. And we have a little bit of gold as little trims over sort of the back of the shoulders, etc. And that's quite cool. So we've also got this star pattern, star design, which is in the body of the shirt there, which is kind of seen on that shirt there, and also is part of the manufacturer. Let's bring it around to the front, and there it is. So it is a continuation of the design. Now what you do have down the sides, in sort of a mesh styling, is the sort of more associated colours with the club, the orange and the green. It's got a bit of ventilation going on there. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but that's pretty cool. And of course you do have it on the cuffs. On the inside you have just simply the club crest, and then also the sizing in there, which is pretty cool. And there's nothing else. You've got the club crest, which is like a nice little kind of almost a somewhat of a 3D transfer, plastic transfer, similar for the manufacturer, who we'll go into detail a little bit about. Has a buttoned up collar, which is pretty nice. And to be honest, it feels really, really good. It feels really, really good. And also, that's really thin. I wasn't expecting that to be that thin, but we do have the tags, which have the club crest, and again the manufacturer. So I will address the mannequin, and I'll explain to you what's the sort of the differences between this one and the previous ones, and I'll give you my general thoughts on it, really. Okie dokie then, so there is the shirts, and I'm hoping I won't need to do too much of an introduction on this particular team. It is, of course, Venezia, the team from Italy, of which I've got quite a good collection of their shirts. I seemingly seem to buy them every year now. My one claim to fame is I did actually own a few of them, those two, before the sort of the hyped Kappa shirt did drop, so I can be a little bit of a hipster when it comes to one of the most hipsterish clubs in existence. And this is their latest edition. It's the 24-25 home shirt. Having been with Kappa for 3 seasons, they decided to part ways, which I think was a little bit of a bold move, should we say, because I'm personally quite a huge fan of Kappa. And looking at, well, I've only got 2 of them, but they certainly are different. You've got the shirt that everyone kind of jumped on board by, and then you've got a very interesting design at the end there, which kind of takes you back to, I don't know, a day where gentlemen would play football. It's kind of a very smart, interesting way of doing it. And then the shirt I don't have, for some people, is the better of them, is also a lovely approach. This one I bought from Classic Football Shirts. So what I usually do is I wait for Classic Football Shirts to get them in because, you know, it makes sense. They're quite a relatively popular club. They're not as hyped as they used to be, certainly around this period, but there's still some residual interest. And it got to like April, May, season's pretty much finished, and no drops. They usually would drop in October, November, gives a chance for, you know, stock to arrive, etc. But I was so close to wanting to make the purchase directly from the Venezia store, which would have been frustrating because it's not only more expensive, of course, you also have shipping to contest. So when this dropped, I was like, thank you. So I made the purchase relatively quickly, and it cost me £80.99. So it's not a cheap shirt, but it's still cheaper than if I would have bought it from the club store. Club store is more expensive, and also the shipping on top of it. Now, there is a difficulty with regards to sizing right now, at least the time recording. In this version of the shirt, there's only medium available, which would have been great for me, but if you obviously don't wear that size, it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for you, specifically because I'd say it's rather tight fitting on the mannequin, so if you are a medium, you probably would want to get a large if you do want to actually wear the shirt, and if you are a small, then you could certainly get away with the medium. So the club released 2 versions of the shirt. It's not uncommon for clubs to do that. You have a stadium version and you have a match version, and the most obvious way to sort of differentiate between them is quite simply the sponsor on the front. So the stadium version kind of follows suit with the other shirts that they've released, and it just has something like City di Venezia on the front, so the city of Venice. It's kind of what you see on theirs. Whereas the match shirt, the player shirt, has this sponsor in front. It's an actual sponsor. I think it's some sort of Prosecco alcoholic beverage from Italy, and that's what it is. And to be honest, I think I probably would have preferred it with the Venezia stuff. I don't know, it kind of brushed it away, but because it was the player spec version, I also wanted to buy that. Additionally, that's all they had on Classic Football Shirts. They only had the player spec version until literally the Friday that just before you see this video, if you're watching it on, you know, the week afterwards, they then dropped all of the other stuff. So that you've got the stadium version of the shirts, so you have the sizes, full sizes again, and it's a little bit cheaper. And they also dropped long sleeve shirts as well, which I know a lot of people do quite like that. And I think they're in the player spec version. So it really depends on what you're interested in. I can't really tell you much else, the difference between them, because I've never had anything from this manufacturer, and I don't have the shirts next to each other to compare. I suspect this ventilation here and the tighter fit probably comes into play with regards to the differences. So with regards to the season for the club, I won't go into it too detailed, but it wasn't particularly successful for them. They were in Serie A, top division in Italy, and they did get relegated. I think they finished 19th, so they didn't finish rock bottom. I think it was Monza who finished bottom, which is a club I actually do need to get a shirt for, and they seemingly seem to bounce between the first and second tiers at the moment, but it doesn't stop people being somewhat interested in the club, partly because of those shirts. So when it comes to the manufacturer, it's a brand called Nocta, which, to be honest, is not one I'm too familiar with. I am aware of it, partly because of its association with Drake, the Canadian music artist, and it's I think it's a subdivision of Nike. I think he has some ownership or some part to play with regards to heading it. And from looking at their usual products, it's like Nike tracksuits and sort of stuff like that. To be honest, I think I'm beyond that age of wearing those sort of products. so I couldn't tell you how they work. To be honest, looking at the designs, they don't seem that different to just regular Nike tracksuits, but I'm sure there must be some differences. But with regards to the make and quality of the shirt, I'd say that's perfectly fine. I mean, let's not be honest, it's still a Nike product at the end of the day, so it's not going to be unsurprising that it's at the very least well put together. There's some nice detailing on it. I think it's very good. There's some, I don't know, small details that I would like to think would be a little bit better. Like, for instance, on the cuffs, it's not like perfectly straight. You've got like more green and then less orange and then more orange, and so it's, the quality control could be done a little bit better. But I like the fact that it's a transferred sponsor. You've got the sort of the 3D logos there. It might be different when it comes to the stadium spec, but it holds up. It holds up really, really well. Of course, when the shirt is released, there were some mixed responses from people. Some people were saying, "Oh, it's what's going on? Why would you deviate from Kappa? Blah blah blah. It's too commercialized, going with Drake and all that stuff." And then obviously some people say, "No, it's pretty cool." They may just be Drake fans themselves. I think the shirt was actually released quite late on as well. I think it was the weekend before the season began or something like that. So, maybe next season, if they're still with that brand, they might be able to release something a little bit different. But I think it's quite good. I think it's closer to the first Kappa shirt in design than any of the other ones. But I think it's different enough to stand out in a world where we have people, myself included, complaining about clubs that are just constantly releasing effectively the same shirt. You can't deny that every single one of these I've got here is different. So, that's fair enough. Of course, like I said, I still need the 22-23 home shirt to have the collection as complete as I can. Going further back is always going to be a challenge to get it brand new with tags. And then who knows, maybe the new home shirt will be released soon enough and I'll have to wait for class football shirts to buy some more, I think, before I try anything else. But let me know, what do you think about this shirt? Where do you think it sort of sits in their recent releases? Have you just totally lost interest in Venezia as a concept? But I think it's pretty smart. And, to be able to say I have 6 of them now, it's not too bad. But that is it. If you don't like this shirt, then I have a feeling, hopefully, you'll like the one I'm going to show you on Friday. It is, based on the images I've seen online, is a beauty. I really hope it's a beauty. It's a replacement shirt. It's one I've had for a while, and yeah, I'm really excited to show that one off. So keep your eyes peeled. Guys, I hope you have a great week ahead, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.